never brought you and Daria here.
Not the boys helping me.
Good boy.
The one sitting behind you.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2024 horror film History of Evil. The film is written and directed by Bo Mirosene and it stars Paul Wesley and Jackie Cruz. Right, the film is set in the near future. It's like a dystopian type future where kind of society has collapsed, a corrupt state has taken over, and people are living in oppression. So this has led to the rise of what is known as the resistance to kind of fight back. And we meet this character who is severely wanted by this corrupt state. She's kind of really high up in the resistance, you know, a real voice of hope sort of thing. And they're really trying to track her down. So she is kind of protected by the resistance, and she is taken to safety by a member of the resistance and her husband and daughter. And they are taken to what can only really be described as a haunted house. And they've decided to kind of stay there and use it as a safe house because apparently everybody's terrified of the place, so nobody will go near it. So they believe they will be safe there. However, the house truly is haunted, and it begins zoning in especially on the husband, because this house, you know, used to be owned by a pretty nasty bugger who was a bit of a Ku Klux Klan man. And he starts visiting the husband and trying to get in his head and turn him against his family. Right, what are my thoughts on History of Evil? Well, this film starts off really interesting. You know, it's quite a unique concept for what really is a very basic haunted house film. You know, this whole dystopian future, you know, and this, you know, rogue state taking over and the resistance rising up to fight oppression, and it doesn't feel like it belongs to this film, that story, and they just don't commit to it really. And when you actually get to this house and the ghost story commences, all I kept thinking about is, we didn't need this whole dystopian future thing. They could have done this, you know, and probably made life a little bit easier for themselves by just writing something a bit simpler. Because if it had really used this concept, you know, of this, you know, rogue state, dystopian future and resistance thing, it would have maybe put a nice little spin on the whole haunted house thing. As it happens, the whole haunted house ghost story process that we get is what we've seen 100 and more times before and done better. It's really very generic in regards to a haunted house film, this. Now, that's not to say that it's bad. It's actually quite watchable, is this film. I mean, I think it'll be a bit slow paced for a lot. It's not exactly what you would call exciting, thrilling, or even scary. It has moments, but in actual fact, what it is, it's like a series of, well, it's the usual things. You know, he's hearing things, then he's seeing things. I mean, it's the whole Amityville thing, you know, where it's corrupting the male member of the family. And this guy that keeps visiting him, who owned the house before, he was a Ku Klux Klan member, keeps trying to, you know, say to him, you should be in control, not your wife, and all this kind of stuff, and essentially corrupts him and haunts him. And that's all well and good. And I think for me, it was just too Shining. It was very Shining like, you know, with the guy is haunting Jack Nicholson in that film. It doesn't really do anything remotely original with the whole haunted house premise. It really doesn't. And the only truly creepy scene I can remember in this film is there's a scene, and I think that it might be either the first night or the second night when they've moved into this safe house, and you know, his usual thing, he hears all the creepy noises and stuff, and he goes down and he opens the front door, and this guy, this Ku Klux Klan man, is butt naked walking up the steps into the house, and he's got like this gooey stuff on his mouth, and he kind of takes them off his mouth and smears it all over this guy's mouth. And it was like, oh, that's a bit horrible. And that was the only truly creepy scene. Now, you come to realise what that represented later in the film. It was the fact that, you know, I'm choosing you, I'm haunting you. But it's just a series of him sitting down eating apple pie with this Ku Klux Klan man, or drinking whiskey with him and just chatting bollocks for most of the film, with an occasional creepy scene of some woman brushing her hair with chains on her feet, and then to kind of build the tension a little bit more, you get like these anarchists, you know, who were pretending to work for this rogue state, and it's really just an excuse for them to be yobbos, you know, pull up and insist on searching the house and stuff, you know, and you can see they've got itchy trigger fingers, and you're just thinking, you know where this is going later in the film. It telegraphs it terribly. And then the ending is very, very predictable as well, I felt. So, while I thought the performances were all good here, I didn't have a problem with any of the performances. The production values are all fine. The premise is very interesting, even though they don't do anything with it. This is basically just a very generic ghost, haunted house film wrapped up in, you know, a fancy bow, if you like, or certainly they think it's a fancy bow. So I don't think this is a bad film. It's just very average for me. It's not a film I could probably recommend unless, you know, you really are into like these haunted house type flicks. For me, this one was a little bit disappointing. I was hoping it was going to be a little bit better, but I think there's probably many people going to watch this who are going to be fairly disappointed. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this review. I will, of course, be back with plenty more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.